When people in the Midlands want to talk, they talk to Will Faulkner.
Morning. Sorry. Does the sound of people eating annoy you? Maybe irrationally annoy you? Well, they now have a name for this. It's a real condition that if you do not like certain sounds, could be somebody sneezing, misophonia. And it is a real condition, and they're not sure, is it psychological, is it neurological, is it some sort of post-traumatic stress? But you can read all about it in the Irish Times today. So, yeah. But that means it's not them, it's you. When you call 0818 300 103 is my number. You can text or WhatsApp 083 30 10 103, powered by Lamb Brothers Toyota in Tullamore. Let's see what's happening in the world today. Irish Times front page. Doctor jailed in UK had worked in Dublin. It says a Meath physician continued to work throughout his sexual assault trial. There's also a photograph of a big, massive castle in County Waterford, which has been purchased by Mark Zuckerberg, the man who set up Facebook, which became Meta, and he's one of the richest people on the planet. Well, actually, he and his wife have bought it, and it's Strancally Castle, which was renovated in the last 20 years, full restoration, so the guide price was somewhere between €20 million and €30 million. So a lot of rich people making their home here in Ireland. Moving then to the Irish Examiner. Cork University Hospital unsafe due to staff shortage is the top story. And Gardaí and youth workers are key to plan on joyriding. So it's not just about the stick, but the carrot, that youth workers will try and intervene with young people much earlier to educate them on the rules of the road, the risks on the road, and the perils of getting involved in crime. On the Irish Independent, you see Caolfin, the new Rose of Tralee, the pride of County Westmeath, pictured without her wig and showing that alopecia and self-acceptance and supporting other women are her priorities for the year ahead as the international Rose of Tralee. Top story, though, on that paper, thousands of homeowners in their 60s are now at risk of eviction. So, a personal insolvency practitioner, Mitchell O'Brien, has been looking at the statistics and has concluded that we need, as a state, to set up a fund to buy distressed mortgages at a discount and then rent properties back to older people in arrears. And his logic is that older people are becoming more challenged because they cannot get a personal insolvency arrangement. Because if you're in your 30s or your 40s and you still have another 20 to 30 years of a career in front of you, then there can be some scope to extend your borrowings and generally get a little bit of headroom. That's not the case in your 60s. And he sees a wave of potential repossessions and homeless pensioners coming at us. That's the top story. Rather gloomy, but have to face reality on the Irish Independent. Irish Daily Mail, Sean Quinn, I'm the victim of a major cover-up. Businessman claims he offered to pay back the €2.8 billion that he owed the state bank Anglo, and he vows to put the record straight in a new podcast series. That'll be a big hit. Irish Daily Mirror, your love and support means so much. The generosity of thousands of people around the country who have donated to a GoFundMe page for the victims who were totally innocent on Sunday morning and who were caught up in that crash on the M9, the three sisters and the little boy. That GoFundMe, as of now, has nearly €600,000 raised. And in a message, the three sisters want to extend their gratitude to everybody who has donated and shown support. So that's a selection of what's on your front pages today. Let's go inside. Simon Harris, the Taoiseach, has a bit of egg on his face because one of his constituency workers, a man by the name of John Kelly, He has had a series of provocative social media posts since deleted, but now coming out to haunt him. So Mr. Kelly has attacked teachers as work-shy. He called the public racist and generally made comments that, well, many in Fine Gael would be embarrassed about. When talking about the number of COVID restrictions, he said that there were many misinformed snowflakes. He accused a radio station of being like Fox News, populist sound bites to drive listenership. You know, you could just rewrite that headline as "Man has opinion and gets in trouble." Not to excuse if you're offended by his opinions, but hey, that's what opinions will do. When you get into a political job, yes, the spotlight is maybe a bit brighter, but do we have to take absolutely everything to heart and dissect it and then have an open public court of opinion and see what people... Anyway, sometimes there is room for disagreement, surely. Prince Harry and Meghan are relocating back to Britain. I'm sure you're very relieved to know. And this is dominating the papers across the water, where the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will bring Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet with them. They've already found school from September onwards, and Britain's Prince Charles, or rather King Charles, is said to be very pleased that there's a thawing of the relationship. Anyway, Irish Times gives that some coverage. The husband who made secret payments to his lover has lost a share of the family home after a judge said it was the worst case of blatant lying to a court. Now, family law cases don't generally get published because of the sensitivities involved, and there are children usually involved and so on. But anonymised reports like this can come out. So this husband was to get 25% of the proceeds of the family home, and his wife was to get 75%. But after learning that he had made secret transfers of money to his new lady, the wife appealed the judgment of the Circuit Court, which had not known this information, and she went all the way to the High Court. And so the husband, before the judge, had to say, "Judge, I did tell the truth in the Circuit Court. I just didn't tell all the truth." It will come back to bite you in the you-know-where. The Lucky Dip Gang. The Lucky Dip Gang is now apparently one of at least 7 copycat groups made up of more than 100 underage teenage boys who are robbing cars, driving the wrong way on the motorway, carrying out minor burglaries, and generally making a nuisance of themselves. So, I'm paraphrasing Ken Foy, the crime correspondent in the Irish Independent today, who has been looking into the backgrounds of Camille Potowski, Joey Carthy, Jack Kennedy, Alex McCarthy and Jeremy O'Brien, the 5 boys who all died on Sunday when they were driving in the wrong direction on the motorway and ploughed into that innocent family that I mentioned earlier. But it seems the Lucky Dip Gang was the original, and they were based out of Dublin, and they have now spawned various others dotted all over the country. And Camille Potowski, by all accounts, was the ringleader in this particular group and had come to the attention of Gardaí for many of the wrong reasons in recent times. Anyway, the full background to them, if you're interested, is in the Irish Independent. The driver of that car, by the way, Jeremy O'Brien, he had been involved in a dispute with other members of the travelling community. It's not clear whether all of the boys in the car were members of the travelling community, but he had been involved in an incident in Tipperary involving a slash hook, and so he was a major person of interest regarding that incident, and he was definitely known to the Gardaí. The National Children's Hospital. There's a sense of Groundhog Day to this one. Deja vu. Just how much of it has been built, how much of it has yet to be completed, and when will it eventually open? A cynic might say by the time today's children are pensioners. But 690 rooms are completed. That's about 82% of the total So, yeah, it's getting there, but obviously far more slowly than anybody would wish. Jennifer Carroll MacNeill, the Health Minister, said at the end of last month the completion rate was not to the pace or the standard we should expect. Just to correct myself, there are 690 rooms outstanding, and that is 18% of the total. So 4,674 rooms are complete, 690 outstanding. Apparently 40% of the ventilation system contained dust above the limits that you can have in a hospital, and so that had to be redone. TheJournal.ie has the breakdown on that one. Anyway, a couple of other stories very, very quickly. Laois County Council is giving permission for a extension to the Midlands Regional Hospital in Portlaoise. This will cover the endoscopy unit and the maternity unit. And it is one of the busiest maternity units outside of a major city, so not before time. According to the report in the Irish Independent, there will be 11 conditions attached to this planning permission. Also, the case of a pensioner who has to pay for maternity cover on their health insurance. We had highlighted this on Midlands 103 some weeks ago with Deputy Carol Nolan, and she has since pursued it to the Health Minister Jennifer Carroll MacNeill, asking her to consider legislative changes that would prevent elderly policy holders having to pay for health cover that would only be enjoyed by a younger person. Of course, the flip side of that is, because we have something called community rating, where it doesn't matter what age you are, you will still pay a level amount for your insurance cover. That means there are younger people, in turn, who have been paying for older services like cardiac care or oncology, which they wouldn't ordinarily benefit from. But Deputy Nolan says since her debate on Midlands 103, the response has been overwhelming. People are genuinely shocked this is happening. The commentary she has received has been hugely supportive. And she says the Minister and the insurance industry may be content to leave elderly and indeed younger people trapped in unsuitable plans, but I am not, and I will keep challenging this incoherent policy, she has said in a statement. So, that concludes what's in the papers today. If I missed a story that should have been mentioned, please do send it to me. 083 30 10 103, WhatsApp, or indeed just send it by text. Weather-wise, today, looking at quite unsettled weather, a few scattered showers about, and indeed tomorrow as well. But if you have any plans for the weekend, maybe you're holding a party on a Saturday afternoon, well, it'll be dry and clear. And temperatures over the coming days, not as warm as perhaps we're used to, but still a very respectable 15 to 20 degrees, which we'll take gladly and appreciatively. A major employer in County Laois is announcing a €6 million investment in an expansion. So, what exactly are the plans at the CJ Sheeran Group? Well, Ashley Doyle is a director at that company. Ashley, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Will, and thanks very much for inviting us on.
There are many people who will know exactly what CJ Sheeran does, but there's quite a lot of companies now under the umbrella. So maybe give us a snapshot of your current state before we talk about your future state.
Yeah, no problem at all. So the CJ Sheeran Group, we're Ireland's largest manufacturer and recycler of timber, packaging and pallets. We have 14 locations across the island of Ireland and most recently one in Manchester. So our growth has been, we've been on a large growth trajectory, I suppose, over the last number of years through organic growth and also through a number of acquisitions across the country and in Manchester, like I say, as well. So that's what we do. I suppose it's all centred around the core of timber.
So what sort of customers would you work with primarily?
Yeah, we have a very broad customer portfolio. So we would supply all industries such as food and beverage, pharmaceutical, medical device, agribusiness, building supplies. So you name it, you name the product, it's been shipped on a timber pallet and most likely a CJ Sheeran timber pallet at some point in its life cycle.
So you have how many staff at the moment?
In total, we have just over 450, and with the new facility then, we're going to increase that to 465, 466. About 280 of those employees are leash-based, and then the rest are spread across our other facilities. So we have 2 facilities up in County Mayo, 1 in Westmeath, 2 in Dublin, 3 up in Northern Ireland, and then the 1 in Manchester as well. So, about 280 are leash jobs.
So this new €6 million logistics and storage facility, the reason you've ploughed all that money in, and it's a huge investment, what will this allow you to do now that it's open that you couldn't do before?
Yeah, so this concept, I suppose, in terms of having this superstore has been in the planning for the last number of years. So it's increasing our capacity for storage of our own products, also our 3PL, which is our third-party logistics capacity, where we can store products for customers already palletised on goods and do shipment for those. Additional to the superstore then, we have installed a new Corrali, a high-speed pallet manufacturing automated line, which can produce up to an extra 10,000 pallets per week. We've installed 2 new kiln dryers, which will kiln dry and heat treat our pallets then as well for supply. And it's all powered by a biomass boiler, which is fuelled by a biomass material that we produce ourselves from shredded timber pallets and offcuts and so on. So, we're significantly increasing our capacity within the group to prime us for future growth and to stay on the growth path that we've been on.
You mentioned the automated production line that's capable of producing more than 10,000 pallets a week. How automated has the industry become?
Yeah, it's going through a huge transformation over the last number of years. So in terms of automation, we've got robotics, we've got there's elements like predictive maintenance sensors that you can install. With the onset of AI, we're able to introduce a huge amount of digitalisation to the system then as well. So I suppose a big shift for the business as well, in line with all of this automation, is upskilling all of our staff to more technical roles, where they're now operating, instead of actually physically manufacturing the pallets, they're now operating multi-million euro lines and are being upskilled in accordance with that they're ready to do this. So it's a great opportunity for the team here, and for new, more tech skill sets, I suppose, coming into the business. And
is there a consequence to jobs that would be negative? Obviously, for those who are being upskilled, it's a positive and potential to earn more. But are there some who are not needed because of automation?
No, we've never seen a downward trajectory in our staff numbers. It's continuous growth, and like I said, we always try to bring people along in terms of upskilling and carving out new roles. So our employees have been able to pivot throughout their career path, I suppose, at CJ Sheeran's. We have a long list of, like, I suppose, good news stories of people that may have joined the business as a pallet operative, manufacturing pallets on the ground, and then they've progressed into forklift driving, operating machines, even into roles in the logistics division, up in sales. So there's a great, I suppose, a lattice or a ladder within the business in terms of upskilling. So, we pride ourselves on being able to carve out good career paths, I suppose, at CJ Sheeran's.
Something I've admired is you continue to invest in Mountrath rather than moving expansion closer to Dublin or one of the ports. Why is that?
Well, we find Mountrath it's so strategically located. You're at immediate access onto the M6, the M7, the M8, M9 motorways. It's right at the heart of the infrastructure, I suppose, in terms of being able to enable quick deliveries to our customers. Every cent that this business generates is ploughed back into developing and further enhancing the capacity. But Mountrath and Laois, I suppose, in terms of its proximity to the areas that we need to supply into, it's ideal. Now, having said that, with all of our other facilities, we're also expanding capacity there. So up in Ballinrobe, we have a new 30,000 square foot warehouse almost finished up there. Up in our plant in Causeway and Antrim, we have plans to build at that site as well. So there's expansion going on across all of our different sites as well to enhance our capacity. But we're firmly rooted in Mountrath. It's the headquarters for the CJ Sheeran Group. And we've also, throughout all the acquisitions, we've managed to streamline, I suppose, a lot. And all of our shared services would be in Mountrath. So you've got our shared services for logistics, for the team here coordinate. I think we did a count of 3,500 truck movements a month. It's probably up from that now. That's headed up by Sharon Lynch and her logistics team. We have shared services for accounts, for compliance. Our sales team are all based here in Mountrath. So that's the model that we have crafted, I suppose, over the last number of years.
And that's the part of the business that people rarely see. So we'll talk about pallets for a moment, because we all, as you say, receive a product that has spent time on potentially one of your pallets. So how long does a pallet generally last?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And obviously a lot of that depends on how the pallet is handled once it gets out into the marketplace. But we see pallets here, like somebody passed a comment that there was a pallet came back in that we had produced with a stamp code on it where it was manufactured in 2013. So that's been out in the market for 13 years now at this stage. So it depends on the quality. Obviously, you want to put a really good quality product out into the marketplace that will stand the test of time. But you definitely see between 7 and 10 years on average that the pallet will live. And then when it comes back into the system here, when it's done its service, I suppose, it gets shredded into a chip, and that goes on for further use then, like the biomass that I mentioned, or there's other products as well that can be produced from that.
So it sounds like there's a genuine circular economy around pallets.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the timber pallet sector in particular, it's a perfect example of the circular economy. It's a zero waste. Repack have came down here back about 2 years ago and did a week-long survey of the process here and have verified that it's absolutely zero waste, even down to the sawdust, I suppose, that comes from the sawmills. Absolutely everything is reused in the process. So it's the prime example of what a circular economy should look like.
So where does the timber itself come from?
Yeah, we would purchase all of our timber from Irish sawmills. So we have our own sawmill, Kerry Sawmills, which is vertically integrated within the group. But we also purchase from all of the main sawmills across the island of Ireland. So you'll have Glennon Brothers, ECC, Woodfab. There's a big 7 there as well. So it's all Irish. It's all FSC certified, which is Forest Stewardship Council. So all sustainably managed forests that comes back into the mix. So sustainability would be a huge overarching, I suppose, not just a buzzword, it's a mantra, it's a way of working here within the business. So we would ensure that all of that is sustainably harvested and it stays in, its lifespan is extended out for as long as can be.
So looking to the future, are you finished expanding in Mountrath, or is there more potential in the future?
Yeah, absolutely more potential. So this warehouse that we had officially opened yesterday by Minister Collins is the first of 6 warehouses. We have a 10-year plan, I suppose, for that particular site, which is a 20-acre greenfield site. So there's another 5 buildings planned for that, for further logistics, warehousing, manufacturing, storage capacity. So yeah, look, we've a big appetite to grow here, as you know, Will. So there's great opportunity here for the Sheeran Group and also for the communities that we work in terms of creating good employment and good, decent local employment. And
do you see the market as still primarily Ireland and the UK, or are you looking further afield?
Yeah, look, I suppose timber pallets have a certain distance that you can ship them empty. So yeah, look, Ireland and the UK will be our primary markets. Having said that, like about 80% of what we actually produce is, once it's packed by our customers, it's exported then as well. So yeah, for now, look, we're focused on Ireland and the UK.
So one final thought: you've had a learning tree to try and bring talent in from the local market, and not just have them maybe for a summer and they go back to college or whatever. You've had good success attracting and retaining people and people building careers within the group. So what's the secret sauce there?
Yeah, look, it's a path that we have taken great pride in for all of our staff. We came up with this concept of Talent Tree a number of years ago, which is our corporate training and development program. So every member of staff that comes on board has an opportunity to seek out further education and upskills. So you may have had a lot of staff that mightn't have had that opportunity, I suppose, to go on to 3rd level education and may have came here for a summer job and so on. And we'll try bring them along with us, and hone in on what their skill sets are and give them that opportunity. And additionally to that, then what we've seen happening over the last 5 years or more is that people will see what we're doing here and they realise that, okay, there's more to this group now than just manufacturing timber pallets. Like, we've got our logistics, we've got sales, we've got accounts, IT, the whole digitalisation side, we've got marketing, HR. Like, there's such a broad engineering, we have an engineering division as well. So there's such a broad spectrum of career opportunities here. As we say all the time, our tagline is it's more than just a pallet. So we've been very fortunate in attracting back in really, really good skills into the business of people that have, I suppose, wanted to ditch the commute, like, you know, and not spend 20 plus hours on the road, and they're able to come out and carve out a really nice career for themselves here and bring back in really good skills that then can be imparted to the broader group. So yeah, it's a process and a system or a secret sauce that's working very well for us, and we take great pride in that.
I'm sure you've piqued the interest of many people who may consider a career in the future. What's the best way to find out more?
Yeah, well, hopefully everyone's, anyone that's interested in finding out more, you're very welcome to contact our HR manager, which is Sarah White. The email is hr@cjs.ie. So yeah, by all means, we often have really good CVs just land in for jobs that may not even have been advertised, and we'll see a CV that'll have landed in and see an opportunity, I suppose, and be able to carve out something then if it fits.
Ashley Doyle, congratulations on the success to date, and we look forward to hearing more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Thanks very much.
Ashley Doyle is a director at the CJ Sheeran Group, which is headquartered here in County Laois in the Midlands and continues to grow in Mountrath. Now, still on the agenda today, running the Kerry Way Ultra Marathon, but doing it not when you're 21. I'll tell you what age this man is in just a few moments, but also the great cause, the great motivation for why he is doing it. It's 18 minutes to 11. There are easier ways to help your neighbour. You could knock on the door, you could organise a collection, you could put a few euro in a bucket. Or if you're John Bulfin, you could run 200 kilometres around the mountains of Kerry at the age of 70. Because John and his fellow Offaly men, Ray Flanagan and George Webb, are taking on the gruelling Kerry Way Ultra to help a young neighbour from Kinnity, Abi Markey, who needs specialist treatment for a rare genetic condition affecting her teeth and her jaw. Then again, maybe these three know exactly what they're signing up for. John, good morning.
Good morning.
70 years of age, 200 kilometres through the mountains, through the night. Have you any sense at all?
A lot of people think no, but this is not new. This is not a first time. This is my fourth time, so I'm aware of what I'm taking on.
Now, explain, for those who have never attempted this before, or indeed who don't know the terrain, how far is the Kerry Way Ultra in old money?
It's 120 miles or 200 kilometres.
So that's more than running from Kinnity to Dublin?
Yes, it would be, definitely.
Plus that. So how do you train and prepare for a challenge like that?
Well, to be honest with you, we believe, we don't go in for this high mileage, grueling stuff that most people would do for even a marathon. So basically our training is one long run in the Sleep Blooms on the weekend. Maybe 10, and just be consistent with it, 10 miles, 20 miles. And then after that, it's kind of your lifestyle. If you like digging the garden or your foot and turf, or as George does, he breaks horses. So we all have our extra training stuff that keeps the core strong and mentally strong so we can get through it.
But the course starts and finishes in Killarney, and it takes in mountain passes and bog and trails and country lanes. It goes through the night, and another difference is you're largely self-sufficient, so it's not that there'll be refreshments waiting for you every couple of miles. So how much planning goes into food and hydration?
Well, the rules of the race state that you have to be self-sufficient. So basically you have to have rain gear, food, water. You need a working phone in the event of emergency. But there are 9 aid stations along the route. and there's some unofficial ones as well. So the hardest part of the race is from Foilmore to Waterville, which is, I think it takes about 5 or 6 hours, and it can end up you being in the dark before you get to Waterville, and that's probably the hardest part of the race.
So is the challenge then more around what's happening inside your head than it would be the legs, the feet, the aerobic strain?
Yes. You see, the whole thing about the Kerry Way Ultra is you just keep moving, even if it's walking. You know, I remember 2 years ago, I felt my race was finished. I said to my racing buddy who I'd met, a guy from California, you go on, finish. You've come a long way to do this. I think I'm finished. But I just kept walking, and yeah, I came to life again and finished it before my Californian friends. So here we are. It's you just never give up, and you just keep moving.
And what would have been your low point when you did it before?
I think that was the low point. I had got to Kinmare. There's a very steep hill out of Kinmare. I was absolutely crawling up that hill and down the next one and up the next one, and then I don't know what happened, but I just said I'll try a bit of jogging now, and from there, yeah, that was the hardest part. And for a lot of people, though, they drop out around Sneem or Waterville just after the halfway mark.
I have to bring up the subject of age because they're extraordinary. You're 70 and Ray is 63 and George is 67. And have you always been endurance runners?
No, Ray saw the race advertised first, and he said, I'd love to do that. And then one of his young nieces said, you're too old to do that. And Ray, that was like a red rag to a bull. So Ray got on to myself and George, and we said, why not? So we started doing this about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's just become a yearly thing for us, a focus for our training. It's a reason to get together every weekend, and it's a social thing as well as a physical thing. And the whole thing of Abi then was, we said, well, we do this. Wouldn't it be great if we could help somebody? And that's how we got into this. So I did something for charity last year, and this year, it's just super to be able to be part of Abi's journey and what.
Well, that's a good opportunity to bring into the conversation Sarah, who's Abi's mum. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, John.
For listeners who may not have heard when you and Abi came to studio, and even for those who can't remember it, would you recall for us when her difficulties started and what's her state today and how is she feeling?
Yeah, well, this is something Abi's lived with her whole life, but we didn't know what the actual problem was until she was a teenager. So she had very little enamel on her teeth, so she always had pain and her teeth were breaking and falling out. And fast forward to when she was diagnosed with this condition, it's called ameliogenesis imperfecta. So it affects your enamel and your bones, your jawbone. Sometimes, not always the bones, but hers did affect the bones. But she had all her teeth removed at 20, and we thought that was kind of the beginning of the end. You know, the pain was over, and in a weird way, it was a positive thing for her at 20 to have all her teeth out because the pain was gone, and she was going to live with dentures, and she was fine with that. But then we got this news last year that the condition actually affected the bones in her face, and that they were dangerously thin, and that her face was in danger of collapse, basically. So, which would be life-threatening because it would, she wouldn't be able to breathe if that happened. So,
it doesn't even bear thinking about, Sarah. It really doesn't. What options are in front of her for treatment? Well,
she has been to Germany. We've been over and back. a number of times now. So she's had 2 surgeries already. She had bone grafts from her hip, from both hips. So that was to increase the bone density, which was good. Now, unfortunately, they didn't harden in time. Actually, when the men are doing the run, we should have been in Berlin for the next surgery, but they've put it off till January just to allow the bone to harden a bit more. Hopefully that will happen. But no, we're in the process. So 2 surgeries down and probably 2 more to go.
So how do you know John and the lads?
Well, I knew John's sister for years, actually, but my next-door neighbour goes to John's church in Burr. So she told John about Abi when we started the campaign. And John said it to me at Christmas, actually. At Christmas week, he was visiting next door, and he said to me about it. Now, I thought, well, he was completely bonkers.
Not to put too fine a point on it.
No, but I mean, 200 kilometres on flat ground is unbelievable. But I mean, 2 weeks ago, my family were down. We went down and put out some flyers for this run, and we walked some of it. Now, very little of it, but it's crazy what they're undertaking.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's anything but flat.
My admiration and anything but flat. I mean, goats wouldn't go on some of it, but yeah.
So what does it mean to you and to Abi for John and the team to do this?
It's unbelievable. Well, we can't. It's hard to put into words what it means that they would do this and do it for Abi. And I mean, Ray only met Abi this week for the first time, and even without meeting her, he was willing to do it for her. It just says what kind of characters they are. You know, and John and this church have really gotten behind Abi, and they've organised a bag pack on Saturday in Burr as well. They're really doing an awful lot to help us, so we're really, really grateful for them all. So
that bag pack is in Buckley's Super Value, I understand. And John, for the rest of us, John, how can we all get behind you and support Abi ultimately?
Yeah, I really believe in the Irish. They're so generous, and when they believe in the cause, there's nothing will stop them. And we know our government, they do the best they can, but the health system is the way it is. And mums have to take things into their own hands at times, and we all get behind them. And that's the way I feel about it, that we should, it's more of the community spirit. The Offaly people are great people, and I do believe once they catch the vibe, and this is a mum struggling to raise 91,000 euros for special operations. Look, you know, we can't leave her on her own. You know, that's the way I feel about it. You taking this interview is really the best we can do. Just get it out there, and yeah.
Look, I think it's a fantastic undertaking in itself for the three of you, and to be doing it again, but to be going through all of this and making sure that somebody else benefits at the end of that tunnel. I think that's really commendable. And if is there any GoFundMe? Is there a way through which people who are far away from Burr and won't be able to go to the bagpack, for instance, is there a way they can contribute? Either John or Sarah?
There's an iDonate page for the men for the run. It's you go on to iDonate and search 200 km for Abi.
Well, I wish you all the best, and indeed Abi in her surgeries, and John, to you and Ray and George, just mind yourselves and stay injury free, and we will be thinking of you and cheering you on. Thanks for the call.
Just one last thing. Could you can track the dots of the runners. The three of us were running the full 200. I can give you the tracking link, and anybody in 103 who wants to track where we are at any time can track us, if you're willing to take that.
Happily. We'll be in touch for those details. Guys, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
All the best.
Thank you.
News at 10 is next. Good morning. Now, still to talk about today. Is your temper damaging your relationship? And what do you do when a grieving teenager seems completely out of control? Headaches and heartaches with psychotherapist Aoife McGrath from 10:30. Also, what is everyday life like when you can't see the world around you? And 5 of Ireland's biggest names in rugby are coming to the Midlands tomorrow night. You'll hear the extraordinary reason that they're getting together just before midday. Now, if you've something to say, pick up that phone and call 0818 300 103 or text and WhatsApp directly to me on 083 30 10 103, powered by Lamb Brothers Toyota in Tullamore. But sometimes there isn't much to say. You just show up. And after the horror of what happened on the M9 last Sunday, people in Great Cullen have been asking what they can possibly do for the 3 local women and little boy who should have been on their way to a family wedding but instead ended up fighting to recover from devastating injuries. So they're going to do something very simple. They're just going to fill St. Clair's Church and stand aside one another and pray. Father John Dunphy is the parish priest in Great Cullen, Collection. Father John, good morning.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
I'm in good form, thank you.
Good.
What have the last few days been like locally?
The last few days has been a sense of numbness and shock, and then a whole sense of people wanting to rally around the families of the 3 girls and the boy who are still very ill in hospital. And they wanted to show their support and solidarity, and they're doing it through GoFundMe pages, which has been a huge success. And also people are just offering prayers, and at all our masses since this tragedy happened last Sunday morning, we have been praying for the health of the 3 young ladies and the young boy. And as all masses, not only in our parish, but all over Ireland, and I think beyond as well.
Now, you've been in contact with people who are close to these ladies, and while obviously respecting their privacy, how are they doing?
Yeah, we are very conscious of respecting the family's privacy, and that's important too. And we are in contact with friends of theirs who are in close contact with them, and they tell us that the girls and the boys still need our prayers, and that it will be a long road ahead for them.
So, tell us what you want them to see and feel as a result of this solidarity that people will show by getting together.
Well, of course, the financial one is one of them, and which is great, but also to allow people to come together to pray and just to be present in a church or outside the church, wherever. And I mean, all faiths and no faiths are very welcome. It's just a show of solidarity. Our pastoral team, led by Katrina here in the parish, have organised a prayer vigil where it will be done through music and reflections and prayer and silence as well, and lighting of candles, just to remember them to pray for a full recovery. And that's what our prayer is for. And I think if the families get to know that's happening, and that will give them a good lift.
Here's a difficult one, because obviously there has been enormous anger about the circumstances of that crash and the national debate afterwards about dangerous driving and social media and so on. You've made a point of saying that the 5 boys and their families will also be remembered.
Well, as I say, as I said already, all deaths as a result of accidents are tragic. It's just the whole situation is a tragic situation, and maybe the dust has settled a little bit and people realise maybe that the boys have parents too, and their brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins. And, they are devastated, they are hurting, and they too need our prayers as well. And I think that's important to remember. It's not up to us to judge, it's up to God. But we just want to support people who are hurting in prayer, and that's what we do as Christians.
So you can still have compassion for a family left behind while not approving of the actions?
We can't approve of the actions. The actions is totally wrong, and it's terrible, and it should not have happened. It's against the law as well as everything else. But at the same time, there are families who are hurting, and we have to be conscious of that.
And this has become a huge national story with photographs and social media commentary and debate and some vitriolic comments as well. And what do you say to those who perhaps are adding some fuel to the fire?
Well, I suppose I'd say we can't undo what has happened. That's the first thing. We have to now move forward and make every effort, whether it's through government, through policing or whatever, that such accidents don't happen again. And I think that's important to remember, that we just can't undo what happened on the M9 last Sunday morning. But hopefully our young people will learn, to respect people and respect life as well.
In the here and now, the whole community is together, but there's often a second stage after the initial shock when everybody else moves on, but those directly affected are only beginning to understand what happened. So do you feel there will be, whenever these women hopefully get out of hospital and get back to their community, will there be a support around them at that point as well?
Absolutely. I hope as the community will rally around them. They're well-known ladies in this community. They have been involved in the GA with local Great GA Club, community games involved in our parish. So absolutely the community will rally around them at all times. Yeah.
I find, looking at messages here, that people struggle for answers and understanding at a time like this. If somebody ever asked you, where was God on that motorway? How would you respond?
I can't respond because I struggle with that question myself. Where is God? Where is God in any tragedy? All I can just picture, God who comes to us in the person of Jesus, who himself cries in tragedies and who's there in the midst of them, crying and comforting and supporting. But why we just can't. That question is left for the next world. We just cannot answer that question.
And
attempt to answer it.
Is prayer in circumstances like this more about getting through what happened rather than trying to understand what happened?
Prayer is used to comfort those who are affected, more importantly, I think, and to help them to get through it, and anybody who's affected in any way. I don't think prayer is to understand it. I think that's not the purpose of prayer. The prayer is to support and help those who are affected in any way.
So what is the arrangement for the church? Because I've seen online reports that it's today, reports that it's tomorrow, just to clear up that confusion.
The confusion, it's tomorrow, Friday at 6:30 in St. Clair's Church. There'll be an hour of prayer, inviting people to come and to pray, to show solidarity and to be present. And that's the whole purpose of our gathering tomorrow night.
And perhaps the simplest message to the family is you're not alone in all of this.
Absolutely. We are not alone. You're there. We're praying for you. We're remembering you at all our masses, all our prayers. And tomorrow night is just an opportunity to show more solidarity through people coming together in prayer and presence.
Father John, grateful for your time today. Thanks for the call.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks, Will. God bless. Bye-bye.
Father John Dunphy in the parish of Great Cullen and Killeshan. It's 10:20. Tomorrow, thousands of Leaving Cert students will discover where the next chapter of their lives might take them. And then for many families, the excitement will be followed by a rather more stressful question. Where on earth are they going to live? Because when you're desperately searching for a room and somebody suddenly offers you one, that's precisely when you can be easiest to fool. And students are being warned that accommodation scammers are waiting to exploit the annual scramble for somewhere to live. Susanna Chadinska is the Vice President for Welfare with Aontas Mochan Lane in Éireann, the National Students' Union. Susanna, good morning.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How convincing are these scams becoming? Could you or I fall for one?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
I said, how convincing are they becoming?
I'd say the main thing is how much pressure and how much time pressure students are under when looking for these scams. A lot of the time, the property can seem perfectly fine and you can go and view it in person, meet the landlord. pay the deposit, and then you show up with the keys and you can't get in. So the thing is, there's such a massive race for who gets to get this accommodation that students aren't in a position to really double check every single thing and make sure that they're not getting scammed.
So let's start with the classic scenario. You find a room online, it looks legitimate. The person tells you that, there are 10 other people who want it, but it's yours if you just transfer €1,000 immediately. What are the red flags there?
Yeah, so there's definitely a few of the classic ones. First of all, creating urgency by saying that, there's so many other people interested in this room right now. Another thing is asking for money to be transferred before a lease is signed, or at least an agreement is agreed upon.
So in that scenario, because it's very tempting, obviously, you think you've landed the golden ticket, what should you do instead?
So whenever you do come across an advert or a listing that you think is a little bit suspicious, Threshold are a really good organisation to contact. They have a free phone line that is open from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. and you should call them and have a talk with them, see if they can find any red flags.
Another scam that Gardaí have warned about lately involves somebody claiming that they're abroad, so therefore they can't show you the property, but they'll happily take your deposit. Another involves a fraudster showing people around a property, taking deposits from several prospective tenants and then disappearing. So it seems even physically viewing the house isn't necessarily enough.
Yes, that is in fact the case. So some of the things that you should do is, a good one is to get a photo of the agent's identification and get their contact details, because that can help with tracking them down in the event that you do get scammed.
But the fear always in the back of your mind is, well, I lose the room if I become too awkward. But at the same time, if an agent is legitimate, they really shouldn't have any problem giving you identification, should they?
Exactly. That's the reasoning. And I mean, I completely understand the urgency myself. I've been in this situation quite a few times as an international student as well, coming into Ireland. You're just not really in a position to be negotiating, and you do have to take whatever you can get, with the risk of not being able to go to college or the risk of being homeless.
Now, Susanna, there are so many students who operate pretty much through Facebook groups or WhatsApp or social media in general. So would you prefer that they maybe use a more, shall we say, traditional way of reaching out to a prospective landlord?
Going through Daft actually doesn't offer you many more protections than going through a Facebook group. So the platform through which you find the accommodation, as long as it's private accommodation, they usually don't offer any protections. Ideally, there would be more state-funded student accommodation, and that way you have the safety through that. And that's what Emily has been pushing for years.
Mm. Now, a lot of people listening aren't actually going to be the student themselves. It'll be mum or dad. And should mum or dad be just as suspicious and careful as the younger person?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a stress for the whole family. So the 3 tips that we have for helping avoid rental scams is to inspect the property in person. It's to use secure payment methods, so not to pay in cash, to get a contract. And main thing is to trust your instinct. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yes, if you've somehow found the perfect room at the perfect price and everybody else is struggling, that's usually the moment to become suspicious. Susanna, thank you very much for the advice.
Perfect, thank you.
Susanna Chajinska is the Vice President for Welfare with AMLE, the National Students' Union. It's coming up on 10:30. Headaches and heartaches, including what to do if your temper is affecting your relationship. And if you've got a grieving teenager who is slowly spiralling out of control, how do you deal with that one in a sensitive but firm way? Now it's time for headaches and heartaches. And if you've got an issue that you would like to tease out, of course in confidence, then simply get in touch and send me some details. You don't even have to put your name on the text on 083 30 10 103. Our resident psychotherapist is Aoife McGrath from Inner Therapy in Portlaoise. Morning, Aoife.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Oh, sure, I'm in great form. Absolutely great. Fantastic form. Because the kids are soon going back to school, the house shall be a lot quieter.
I know. I have mixed feelings about that. I know some parents who are dreading it and other parents who are quite happy with it. So a mixed bunch.
Well, unfortunately, it's only 5 days a week and I can't keep them in at the weekend.
Okay, I know which camp you fall into then.
Yeah. Say how you really feel, Will. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about mental health in general and to check yourself against maybe some bad habits that we can fall into. Recognising when maybe we're not quite feeling ourselves, when it's not just a little bit of a setback or some of the blues which we can all get hit with from time to time, when it's something more substantial. Give us some steps to watching and improving ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I wanted to start just to do a quick piece on like what we should be doing to kind of keep our mental health in a good position. Some people will say, oh, I have poor mental health or I have good mental health. Well, mental health is the same as physical health. It needs to be minded. And some people, you might say, on the outside look like they're, very resilient. They're able to cope with things. But people do mind their mental health the way that they mind physical health. So just a couple of points. There's five kind of steps.
Can we tackle something just at the outset? Because there is this, and maybe it's a male notion and maybe it's an older concept. Maybe there's some truth in it, maybe there's not. Some regard it as, you're strong, I'm weak.
Yeah. And it is that, I suppose it's the same, in the same way that people can have this perception that some people are just naturally slim and fit. And sure, I'm not, just lucky them. When you don't know what another person puts into their own upkeep, if you know what I mean. It's kind of the same with mental health. We don't know what struggles people are putting up with. We don't know how strong they are having to be. We don't know how they present when no one's looking. So it's really about, turning the focus inward on what you're doing for yourself. And if you are someone who sort of does fall into maybe negative thinking or negative behaviours, it's about, well, what can I do for me? Because it is that comparison to other people. I think someone said, don't quote me on who the quote is, but comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
So if you're only comparing yourself to other people, you're never going to be happy because you might not reach what you think they're achieving.
And it's easier and easier to do all of that in today's world because we will only ever show our best side on Instagram and it'll be filtered and it'll be nuanced, and the reality, of course, for everybody is life is far more challenging. So, okay, that's one. Comparison is the theft of joy.
So it's about bringing it back to yourself. Well, what do I need? What do I need to focus on for me in order to feel better about myself? Because set your own parameters, set your own goals for how you want to feel and how you want to think. So that's the first thing. So there's just 5 quick steps I might run through. So the first is, like, if you're not feeling yourself, if you're feeling a little bit, I don't know, we talked before about seasonal affective disorder. Is that coming in already? Because there is.
You can feel the evenings tightening in, all right, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And the cooler weather, like yesterday was a much cooler day, things like that. And it was a dark day. So connect with other people, because it is, unfortunately, one of the things we tend to do when we're not in great form. We're like, why would anyone else want my doom and gloom? So we withdraw from people. So you need to connect. So you connect with the people that you know. If you're someone who doesn't have a lot of connections, like say you don't have family, or if you've lost family or they're not in the immediate vicinity, connect with new people. So how do I connect with new people? How do I see what's in my area? Maybe join a group or that sense of community, go to an event or even hang out at the library. Things that are kind of bringing you more in contact with people rather than being isolated, because isolation is really bad for mental health. So that's the first one, connection. And it could be as simple as picking up the phone, or just or asking someone to meet for coffee, just making that effort that you need it. Without saying you need it. It's just like you'll feel better.
But look, again, I suppose we all have the odd day where we want to just go home, cuddle up on the couch with a hot water bottle and watch some movies, and that's okay. It's when you're doing that habitually that it becomes a problem.
It is. And I suppose it's also when you're feeling lonely, when you feel isolated, you have to take the first step and say, well, the opposite to isolation is connection. So I can either choose isolation, or I can choose to have my day or night where I do shut down, and sometimes if you're overwhelmed, it's good to take that time out, like you say. But if it's going on a while and you haven't heard from anyone, there's nothing stopping you from picking up the phone or to send a text. It's not like sometimes we get into that, oh, sure, no one's minding me, or no one's ringing me.
Yeah, but we're in a world where we're constantly seeking validation. So we post on whatever social platform, oh, we only got a handful of likes.
Yes.
And the extension of that is if you disappear for a while and the phone doesn't ring, you think, well, nobody misses me.
Yeah. And we are all kind of wrapped up in our own stuff. A lot of the time people are busy. We might find our peers are very busy with their own lives, and we can feel a bit left out. But it's like we're all busy. So you can be the first person to make the first move in terms of solid connection, not like that, likes or feeling connected through sort of virtual, a virtual form, but actually meeting someone face to face, having a laugh, having a chat, that sort of solid connection. So that's the first one, connect. The second one is to be physically active, because as we all know, we've been told before, the more your body moves, it's sending happy hormones into your brain. So we need to kind of remember that sometimes if we've been sedentary for a long time, we're not getting fresh air, we need to get out. And more than ever, I think, as Irish people, we need to get out no matter the weather. We just have to, as someone said, I've said this before on this show, there's no such thing as bad weather, it's just bad clothing. You need to kind of psych yourself, and especially now, get yourself kitted out for the autumn. You don't have to do anything major, you could just do a walk, or you could, if you wanted to be a little bit more active, you could join a class, an indoor class maybe for the winter.
But you know what's terribly rewarding? Walking in the Slieve Bloom Mountains, or even last Sunday took a trip to Mount Leinster.
Lovely.
Or you can go to Wicklow. But there's something about the rural isolation and the chirp of the birds in the background and the noise of the wind in your ears, and, being completely disconnected has its virtues.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a new study that shows that neurodivergent kids, so kids with ADHD, really benefit from green time. They benefit from being in nature. I mean, all kids benefit from nature, don't get me wrong, but getting off the screens, getting off the devices, getting out into a forest does wonders for mental health for everybody. So it's really good to kind of just, and like that.
Maybe brown time is our equivalent here in the Midlands, because we've so many bogs.
Well, bogs are lovely. I love bogs. I love nature, period. But if you're not in a position to drive, you could, there's walking groups you could join that would maybe have a carpool, or you could just walk around your local area if it's just a lane. Just get out and about and get moving, because movement is, I think, there are studies that our sedentary lifestyle is now the biggest health risk. I sit for a living, you sit for a large part of your day as well. So it's getting that balance right, that we move our bodies, because physical health is linked to mental health. And I don't think anyone feels worse after taking some sort of exercise. And if it's outdoors, normally you come in, your cheeks are a little bit pink.
Oh, yeah.
You feel a little bit alive.
Oh, it's never the after effect that people have a problem with. It's the thought of doing it in the first place. So,
absolutely.
Connect, number one. Move, number two. What's number three?
Learn something new, engage the brain. So it can be anything like, you'll often see people say, I often thought of doing that, but I haven't done anything about it. Do something about it. Fit it in. If it's a new skill that you want to learn, if it's, if it's like learning in terms of going back to reading, it can be anything that's personal to you, but it's engaging the brain in a meaningful way. It could be learning to play bridge, so that you've got connection there, you've got social connection, and you've got a skill learned.
Right, so you're not necessarily talking about going back to college and doing a degree for the first time.
Learning is not about academic learning. But you'll notice things like the men's or women's sheds, they definitely have a learning element to them, like woodwork or painting or music. So it's stimulating the brain in a meaningful way and keeping it active, because a stale mind tends to just get staler as we get older.
Interesting. The penny has dropped in what you've said there. These women's groups, men's sheds and so on, they first of all have the social connection. Secondly, there is movement involved in that.
Yes.
You are up and about, and sometimes they take tours and it can be quite physical, and you're always learning. So I wonder, do they have more ingredients still to come?
Well, that's it. So the learn is the fourth one. The fifth one then is to pay attention. So this is the one that everyone can do. And it's something that we've got really bad at doing. So it's about being in the moment. It's one of the easiest probably of the 5. So it's putting down your phone. If you're out for coffee, looking around you, people watching. It's listening. If you're out for a walk, it's actually listening to the sounds and the sights, seeing the sights around you. Just paying attention, soaking in where you are in that moment. And it's something that we're very bad at doing, unfortunately.
I think the classic example is the shower, where we might be, first thing in the morning, getting into that shower, thinking of the 1,000,001 things there are to do today, and not feeling the drops on our body and the heat and the, inhaling the vapour and everything that experience brings. And it can be so relaxing. But when your mind isn't present, it's just functional.
Yeah, it's just another tick, another box to tick. You're so, and that's a lovely example. It's like, it can be as simple as if you're washing the dishes, you're actually feeling the water on your hands. You're slowing everything down and bringing your attention to what you're doing. And that mindfulness is a huge part of our modern culture because we've forgotten how to do it. And you'll notice, like, so many people, given the chance to be out and people watching is what we used to do when we didn't have phones.
Oh, that's brilliant, though. It's still fun. That. You go somewhere, sit down.
Oh, absolutely.
See people going by, inventing stories about their lives. I love doing that.
Absolutely. But the other thing you're doing is you're connecting with people. So if you don't have your phone on, you're looking around, you might catch someone's eye and you might share a smile or how are you?
Well, hey.
That's connection. Connection doesn't have to be a huge conversation. It just feels like, oh, I saw you and I was seen. And for some people, that might be the only connection they have or the only interaction they have during the day is the little small interactions with other people. But it makes a difference.
By the way, I think I've miscounted. So the first one was connecting. Yeah.
Connecting, being active, learning new things, paying attention is number 4. And the fifth one, I'll always put it in 5th place. Some people might put it higher up, but it's giving. Giving back, giving to others, giving of yourself, your time. Because that gives you an enormous sense of well-being and validation, self-worth. But I put it at the end because a lot of people are very good at giving to other people and they don't put anything back in.
Can I put an asterisk beside it, though? If you're giving for the right reason, some people give for the thanks and the applause and the credit that goes with it, in which case you risk being disappointed if you're seeking approval rather than doing it because it makes you feel good, the act itself.
Yes, yeah. And I suppose sometimes I would find sometimes people are selfless and giving of themselves. Sometimes they don't really want the attention on themselves in terms of, not the attention, but they don't want to do work on themselves. So that's how they get their validation. I'll do this, but they're not giving themselves any self-care, if that makes sense. I'll deflect it. I'll give it to you, but I'll put myself last. That's, in the long run, that's not good for mental health. So I would always put it last. If you have taken care of 1 to 4 and you're in a good headspace, then see what you could give back, like things like volunteering or even just like that, ringing someone up to connect with them, but you're giving your time to them because you have it to give. Simple things like that, but I would always say look after yourself first.
Well, if you're like me and you see St. Peter at those pearly gates, I know there's a long list of reasons not to let me through, so I got to put a check in the other column.
You might have to do a few things like that. But it also, like that, it gives you a sense, like that, it's the opposite of isolation. It's like actively engaging with people. And volunteering is probably, I think this country runs on volunteerism. You know,
Definitely.
half the things get done for nothing.
So in so many ways, how volunteers have to step in where the state fails, but that's a conversation for a different day. Aoife, would you mind staying there, because we have a dilemma next that I think a lot of men particularly will relate to. And at least this man recognises it within himself and wants to do something about it. That's next. Still to come on Midlands 103 this morning. Should somebody driving the wrong way down the motorway be charged with attempted murder rather than a road traffic offence? You'll hear from one senior politician who believes the answer is yes. Also, living in a world that you cannot see, and why 5 of Ireland's biggest names in rugby are coming to the Midlands for a great cause. That's in just under an hour's time. Aoife McGrath is still with us. She's the psychotherapist at Inner Therapy in Portlaoise. And Gary is our next listener, who recognises that he has a very short temper. He's in his 40s, and it's beginning to impact a new relationship that he would rather not be so snappy in. He'd rather not walk away when he gets annoyed. He'd rather just be a bit more level in his thinking. First of all, how common is this complaint?
Oh, I'd say pretty common. Pretty common, where maybe we might not be as maybe passionate as the Italians or Spanish, but we are quite prone to outbursts and expressing ourselves, and we would, I think the Irish, maybe in general, maybe I'm generalising, would have a short fuse.
Now, Gary doesn't say whether he has red hair.
Oh, you're splitting hairs.
Well, hang on, you said generalising, so I went there.
Yes, absolutely. No, but it probably is more common, well, I don't know, is it more common, I'd say, male and female sort of puberty, that whole period of time can be very volatile in terms of, short fuse. I'd say,
in your experience and in your opinion, is it something that we're predisposed to, that we're naturally fiery, or is it the product of our upbringing and how life has treated us?
I'd say it's a bit of both. I'd say nurture in terms of maybe the environment we're born into. So if emotions were regularly running high and were expressed in a volatile manner, if they came out as soon as they were felt, we model that behaviour. And then nature, I suppose, in terms of, you do get people who seem to be very laid back and not fazed by anything, and you get other people who are very passionate and quicker to fly off the handle. So a bit of both. I would say to just for your own out of interest, Will, when would you find yourself, say, most impatient or most snappy? What's going on for you?
Probably in the car.
Or I can say for me, in the car. Okay, yeah, that's a big one. I would say Gary maybe needs to look at his overall stress levels, because a huge part of the problem is modern life. He's in his 40s. I don't know what he does for work, anything like that, but it does impact us, I think, at certain times of life that we're less patient, we have less time to ourselves or to think about things, and it seems to be go, go, go. So I would definitely have a think about that in terms of Gary, like how stressed is he on any one day? And then, it's a new relationship. Is this something that has affected previous relationships? Is that why relationships haven't worked out for him, or is it new, or he's finding it's a new behaviour in this relationship, and what's going on there? So it's a hard one to kind of get into in detail. But I think in general, the more I find if I'm overtired or I haven't given myself a bit of headspace, I can be very snappy and impatient and lose my temper if things haven't been done that have been asked to be done.
Yeah,
whereas if I'm just in from a walk, or I've been looking after myself, or I come in from a catch up with the girls, I'm in much better form and things don't affect me.
And I agree. I think you can, if you're ordinarily not prone to temper,
yes,
you can manage it in those ways.
Yeah.
But if Gary is just somebody who's naturally fiery, and
that's what I wonder.
And he's in his 40s now, and if you'll forgive the expression about the old dog and new tricks, can you retrain yourself when there's a lifetime of habit that has formed?
Yes, you can. And I suppose, again, it comes down to that. What was normal for Gary growing up? Was it normal to have someone let out a roar? And then, how is that dealt with? So how much of it is model behaviour and how much of it is is just something that he's, it's become part of him. But yeah,
is that
CBT would be
then
a good
CBT?
one.
Exactly, yes. So cognitive behavioural therapy sounds like what?
Yeah, so cognitive behavioural therapy, well, the model I use would sort of try to help the client understand that when you react to something, you have a demand statement. So normally with anger, you have a way that things should be. So when things are not the way they should be, you react by self-downing the other person. So say you're driving, because you mentioned driving, you're driving at 100, but someone in front of you is driving at 80. So your thought is like, he should be driving at 100, he or she should be driving at 100, that's the limit. But that's the limit, or that's the guideline limit. But no, you don't have to drive at 100. So it's that statement of fact that you hold very clear to yourself. Not everyone else holds that clear to them. So it's that understanding that the demands that I hold other people to, or the standards I hold other people to, they're only mine. And that kind of realization that I'm getting frustrated because I think that the world should be the way that I understand it to be, or I want it to be.
So it's trying to make that little voice in your head a bit more logical and rational.
Yeah, just like it. Yeah, and it's sort of just to take the. I had this conversation recently where you're like, if you're in a rush to get somewhere and the person in front of you, you're getting angry with them, you're missing the learning. And the learning there is, if I need to be somewhere at a certain time, I have to make provisions to be there. So you're taking ownership. You're turning it inward instead of turning it outward. But you would be there
if there wasn't a slow idiot in front of you. Is that not what you wanted to hear? Do I need to work on my inner voice?
You need to work on that inner voice to say, I don't know what they're, I don't know what's going on with them, but you know what? I can take a breather. Yeah. I can just, divert, or I can make the provisions, but
or I can overtake them.
To get the person in front is going to do. I can overtake when it's safe to do so, but I'm not doing anyone any favours by being in this mindset.
I am just being facetious. Aoife, unfortunately, we haven't time to get through. There was another important one we wanted to tackle about a teenager who, following a bereavement, has gone down a path that her mum would really prefer she didn't. But on the next occasion you're here, we will tackle that as a priority.
Absolutely.
You take care.
Thanks, Will. Take care. Bye-bye.
Aoife McGrath, if you want to chat to her in person, look her up at Inner Therapy. Still to talk about today, why some of Ireland's biggest names in rugby shall be coming to the Midlands shortly. Also, Harry and Meghan are making a return to this side of the Atlantic. I can sense your excitement radiating from here. And what's it like to live in a world you can't see? Now, when you call, 0818 300 103 is my number. You can text or WhatsApp 083 30 10 103, powered by Lamb Brothers Toyota in Tullamore. And I have a feeling you'll have a very strong opinion on this next topic. Because there are mistakes behind the wheel, and then there are choices. Missing a turn is a mistake. Driving over the speed limit can indeed be a mistake. But deliberately pointing a car against motorway traffic and putting your foot down. Billy Kelleher says we need to stop treating that as merely dangerous driving, and he says we should call it attempted murder. He is a Fianna Fáil MEP. Billy, good morning.
Good morning, Will.
Attempted murder means somebody intended to kill another person. So are you seriously saying that's what a wrong-way driver is intending to do?
Well, I mean, certainly if you point a car and drive down the motorway against traffic, well, you are certainly recklessly endangering life at the very least. And I think that the sentences, the custodial sentence that should be for this type of activity should reflect the seriousness of it. And we saw in recent weeks the tragedies unfold on our road with regard to the issue of people intentionally driving down the wrong side of a motorway. The very least that people should expect when they get onto a motorway is that all the traffic will be driving in the one direction. That is a concept, the trust that we have in road use, and the idea that we sanction people who make these deliberate, willful criminal acts with road traffic offences, in my view, simply does not reflect the seriousness of it.
So is it more a case that you're not using the term attempted murder literally, but you're saying that we need a new offence that carries similarly severe consequences?
Yes, I mean, custodial sentences would have to be handed down, and strong custodial sentences. We can't have a situation where we now have this regularly on our roads, and we've seen the tragedies in recent weeks, but this has been happening all too often on roads. We see cars being raced on roads against traffic on a regular basis. We see horses on roads on a regular basis, on the wrong side of roads being raced as well. These are all things that are causing huge problems on our roads. And then when you have people using cars at massive speeds on the wrong side of motorways, well, clearly you're going to end up with further death and carnage on these roads. And this issue has to be dealt with the seriousness that it deserves. The very least we should do is to have the confidence that we can get on a motorway and know that all cars will be driving in one direction. And if there's a breach on that, well, then there should be very severe sanctions. And
well, your
look,
colleague,
the
Justice Minister Jim O'Callaghan, has suggested creating a specific criminal offence of intentionally driving against motorway traffic. He hasn't talked about attempted murder, but are you content with that approach?
Well, I'd be content, and they can define it in any way in the legislation that obviously would be legally sound, but what we have to do is to reflect the fact that it is not just a traffic offence, it is much more. And bear in mind, many people that, are involved in this type of activity, they're not worried about whether they will lose their licence. They may not even have a licence in the first place. They're not concerned about the fact that they have no insurance. They're not concerned about what all or most road users are concerned about: retaining their licence, trying to get home safely, and trying to ensure that they minimise the impact on other road users. That's how it works. It works on trust. And those people have completely abandoned any sort of concept of, trust in the system. So they must be dealt with accordingly. And
so if your motivation is to evade Gardaí, you've been involved in criminality, you're driving the wrong way along a motorway, and subsequently you're caught, you're brought before the courts, you're prosecuted, your motives are established. How long should you serve in prison?
Well, if you're driving down the wrong way in a motorway to evade arrest, to evade detection, or for any other reason, if it's intentional, there should be a serious criminal custodial sentence. Of course there should be. I mean, there already is the capacity to do it, but it doesn't seem to be working in the context of reckless endangerment and the Non-Fatal Offences Against the Person Act of 1997. But it doesn't seem to be used. And we have a situation now, Will, where regularly on social media you can see people uploading these posts. They are uploading posts of themselves driving the wrong way on roads at reckless speeds and boasting about it on social media. And I believe there should also be a process put in place there by An Garda Síochána and the DPP to prosecute people on the evidence that they have uploaded themselves on social media. Like, we have to start tackling these particular issues. Here's one of the dilemmas, though,
Billy, that we have, unfortunately, many young people involved in this behaviour. Some may not even be old enough to have a licence in the first place. So imposing long custodial sentences when you're dealing with minors, historically, is very tricky.
Well, yes, Will, but in that context, well, then you obviously have youth diversion programs, but there has to be some sanction. You can't have a situation whereby, in the event of a person being under a certain age, that they are, basically able to do these things without
indeed.
Any
they can't be immune from
sanction.
prosecution, I agree.
Yes, they can't be immune from prosecution, but there has to be a sanction that reflects the seriousness of it. Otherwise, you will end up in a situation where, younger people will be able to drive on the wrong side of motorways. And, if they're of a certain age, well, then there is no severe sanction. That in itself will only encourage further and further types of activity in this nature. And we see the tragic consequences of it. And if we don't do something soon, well, then this will continue to escalate as time goes on. So there's two things I'd like to see: very strong custodial sentences for intentional reckless driving on the wrong side of a motorway, and also that they start looking very clearly at the whole issue of using social media posts that are very often uploaded by these individuals themselves in the context of prosecution. That, in my view, would be something that I think they should take into account as well.
Well, that opens an interesting discussion, because while it's primarily a criminal justice problem, it seems to be increasingly a social media problem, that there's nearly an incentive to gain views and likes and comments, and ultimately these social media platforms are profiting off the back of that through engagement and advertising. So what should be their role in curbing the incentive, for the lack of a better term, to do this?
Well, I mean, if people are uploading criminal behaviour, which it is, and that is allowed to be circulated. Well, I think that's grossly irresponsible by social media companies, and there needs to be greater obligations on social media companies not to facilitate the posting of such content. It encourages and glorifies. And you can see that copycat element taking place regularly. And I've seen it myself on social media where you might see, a car being driven at high speeds on the wrong side of the road, and the person doing it uploading this on social media. In my view, it shouldn't be allowed to be uploaded, but if it is, well, certainly it should also be used as evidence for prosecutions. So
there's an important distinction that we're discussing changing the law after Sunday's tragedy, and obviously There are 5 people dead. There are more who are gravely injured. How do we have this debate without effectively trying dead teenagers in public?
Well, I think we shouldn't, reference it in the context of this very sad tragedy that had happened. We probably have all been talking about this issue of the lawlessness that is now in some areas on our roads with some groups of young people. We've seen it for a long time. We've seen it with e-scooters and with scramblers, with e-bikes, etc. But I mean, like high-powered cars on motorways in the wrong direction, takes it to a level where they could have catastrophic effects. And we've witnessed that before last week's tragedy as well, with multiple injuries in a previous case as well. So it is happening, and it looks like it's going to become more prevalent unless there is greater deterrence. Now, clearly, education, all those things will be important as well. But at the end of the day, a person willfully making a decision to turn down the wrong way in a motorway and continue to plough through traffic at high speeds is a reckless act that endangers lives and breaches trust in our system.
Billy Kelleher, MEP, thank you for the call today.
Thank you, Will.
083 30 10 103, text and WhatsApp. The gravity of the offence he would liken to attempted murder. That is the way in which it should be prosecuted, and indeed custodial sentences handed out. Would you go that far as well? Because in a legal sense, attempted murder, you have to show that there was intent to kill, as opposed to intent to escape arrest or whatever their motive happened to be, however disgusting you may find it last Sunday. 083 30 10 103 on text and on WhatsApp. Powered by Lamb Brothers Toyota in Tullamore. The morning is flying. But first, well, it looks like they can unpack the boxes all over again, because 6 years after Harry and Meghan spectacularly left Britain for a new life in California, the sunshine, the Netflix deals, the podcast, the interviews, the books, and rather a lot of dirty laundry washed in public, well, they are coming back. Archie and Lilibet are reportedly enrolled in a British school. Harry and Meghan will live outside London. King Charles apparently welcomes the prospect of seeing more of his grandchildren, and somewhere, one imagines, Prince William has just put the kettle on rather aggressively. Our royal correspondent, Michelle Rogers, joins us. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning.
So, after everything they have said about Britain and the royal family and security, why on earth are they coming back?
Well, good question, isn't it? Yeah, I think most people blindsided by this. Apparently, King Charles was only told at the weekend, and yeah, it's very odd. Well, it is and it isn't, I suppose, because I suppose Meghan has realised maybe that the dollars lie in the UK more than the USA.
So
perhaps.
How successful, or indeed unsuccessful, have they been on cashing in on their profile stateside?
Well, I suppose initially successful because everything is new, wasn't it? All their dirty laundry was new, and there's very little more they can say. So Netflix aren't interested in them anymore. The Oprah thing is gone. The book is written. So there's very few secrets and, as I say, dirty laundry they can air anymore. So the currency is kind of used up, I think. And, they're kind of even, celebrities, minor at that, I think, even in the US now. There's not great interest in them, and her jam and whatever else she sells isn't going very well.
Whereas back in the UK, they're still somewhat household names, even if they're somewhat off the scene. So they're not going to live on a royal estate?
apparently not, no. Somewhere outside London, and children are enrolled in school. I mean, I think in a way, 6 years on from Megxit, it's Meg's in again now, because, it's kind of like we are half in and half out. They're still going to be associated with their charities. They're still going to do commercial work, apparently. So kind of in a way, she's got what she wanted.
And what of the security question? Do we know, has that been resolved?
Pray tell. Pray tell. I mean, that's very recent that Harry was whinging about, lack of security, and I'm sure it is an issue for them. But now apparently it's not.
And then there's the King. So Charles is living with cancer, and reports suggest he's keen to see more of his grandchildren.
Yeah.
So could this simply be Harry recognising that his father is getting older and time isn't unlimited?
Yeah, I would imagine so. And I mean, it's only last month that they were in the country and he met his grandchildren for the first time in years. And I think, to remember, it's very difficult as well because of what Harry has said in his book about Camilla. And that's quite difficult, I'm sure, for his father.
For those of us who didn't read the book or follow closely, what's the gist of his opinion?
Well, that basically she was the wicked stepmother, that she used the press against him and William, and very scathing about her, very scathing. You were under no illusion what he thought of her. But, I suppose things can repair and families can heal, but I think it'll take a lot more than this to soften William towards him. And I wonder as well, do they see how successful William and Catherine are in their roles with their children as well, bearing in mind that, Lilibet and their son will have titles when the king dies. So they will be quite significant members of the royal family, particularly if they're in the UK.
Well, reconciliation with Charles is one thing, but reconciliation with his brother is quite another. So how damaging have the allegations that he made in Spare and in other interviews been?
Very, very. And I think the fact that obviously Catherine has had her ill health along with the king, and they've been through an awful lot. It would have been a time where I'm sure William would have liked his brother's support, and but I would imagine, and we can only speculate, that William finds it unforgivable what Harry has done. They don't do that. They don't talk about their private lives like that, and William certainly doesn't. And to be called racist and accused of, whatever he accused Catherine of, making Meghan cry and all this palaver, and I don't know. It's hard to imagine where the reconciliation will come there.
They are living then in the same country. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be together, so this rift could still continue.
Yeah, I mean, you'd wonder, family time at Sandringham, when all the royal family appear on Christmas Day, if the king wants them there, will there be conflicts for that kind of thing? Because William may not, and it's going to be interesting, because although it's private time, it's still a public event every year, things like that, and weddings and whatnot.
Yeah, but at the same time, he can't pop out for Trooping the Colour on a Saturday and sell a television documentary on a Monday.
No, he'll try, maybe. He might do his best. We have Meg's in now, so it'll be interesting.
Well, we shall watch and see how it all unfolds. Again, this side of the Atlantic, as you say, there's far more interest. Obviously less so here in Ireland than in Britain itself. What do you reckon the British public will make of this? Will they be welcomed home?
Well, I think looking briefly on social media this morning, it's more anti-it than pro, I think. They're very proud of their royal family, a lot of British people still, and they're, the king, and they feel he's doing a good job, and there is still very much a strong feeling for the royal family, and particularly William and Catherine. So, I don't even think it's 50-50.
Michelle, always great to chat with you. Thanks for the call. That cheque for royal correspondent duties is definitely somewhere lost in the post. You take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Michelle Rogers from Abbey Leaks. Well, she met Princess Diana many times while living in London and has always maintained a keen interest in the royal family and royal affairs of, all kinds. It's 27 minutes past 11. Now, still to discuss this morning, living in a world that you cannot see. That's next. Beyond Barriers is an 8-part series that delves into the diverse experiences and challenges faced by people living with disabilities. And in each episode, we look at the daily realities, from physical impairments to autism, and we want to introduce you to people who have navigated a world that often fails to meet their needs adequately. And this series is funded by Comisiún na Mban through the television licence scheme under Sound and Vision.
Beyond Barriers is funded by Comisiún na Mban with the television licence fee.
Welcome to the 5th episode of Beyond Barriers. I'm Sinead Hubble, and today we'll explore what it's like to live in a world you can't see. Sharon Tracy from Tullamore is visually impaired and was born with a progressive eye disease. She was misdiagnosed until she was 18 and struggled through school and getting a job.
I did have sight initially, but I would never have had 20/20 vision. And at the time, I didn't realise that people saw things clearly and had clarity. I thought that everybody saw things the way I did. So I didn't actually think there was anything wrong with my eyes. And I was just constantly being given glasses by opticians who, no fault of their own, didn't realise or wasn't aware of the eye condition I had. It was quite rare at the time. It eventually came along there where I couldn't read my books or see the blackboard in school. I would have struggled through primary and post-primary school. I suppose I was the person in the class that was always talking and distracting others. In hindsight, looking back, it was because I couldn't see around me, so I didn't realise, and I was just totally bored, to be honest.
So that must have been difficult being in school and not being able to see, and no supports there for you.
Looking back again, it was, but at the time, as I said, I didn't realise that I actually had anything different about my eyes than everybody else. But as I got older and went to college then, and I might walk in somewhere and I couldn't see anybody, and at that stage, I realised there's something else here. So then it was constantly just trying to fight really for someone to believe me that there was something more than just being short-sighted. That in itself was a battle and very frustrating at times. Very disheartening and disappointing at times, because I suppose there was a little bit of happiness and elation at one stage and success when I realised, yes, there is something, that is causing this inability for me to see. There is a name on this, and it's not just in my head. There is actually something more than short-sightedness, with my eyes.
That didn't stop you, because you went to college and you're in full-time employment.
Yeah, I would say though approximately 2 years after being diagnosed, I went through what I would call my pity party, which is where I thought, oh, you know what, I'm never going to get a job, I'm never going to get married, I'm never going to have children, I'll never own my own home, I'll never get to travel. So all of them negative thoughts would have been just in my face all the time, and I was constantly thinking of those things. But thankfully, I met a lady who believed in me, and that was the beginning of the turnaround for me. I just needed somebody to understand a little bit of what I was going through and to believe in me, and then that made me believe in myself. And once I believed in myself, as you know, Sinead, you can overcome anything once you have the confidence and belief in yourself that you can do something.
Did you find it difficult to get a job?
I did and I didn't. I suppose I'm of a believer that, the right doors will open at the right time. And I had to do retraining, and at the time the retraining was either in Dublin or Sligo. I chose to go to Sligo because I was too nervous, to be honest, to go to Dublin back then on my own, and not being, the same supports weren't around, the same opportunities weren't there. So I went and I retrained, and once again I met another lady who believed in me and could see that there was something more out there for me, and that I could have a full life and participate as much as possible. So I was guided by this lady for a while, and she helped me out a lot. And then I began then just looking for employment, and got employment, and was fortunate to work in different places. I worked in the health board here in Tullamore and in Guinness in Dublin before I got the current job I'm in now. I suppose working with the health board, first of all, here in Tullamore, the manager at the time was very open to listen to me, and I was actually began to cover for maternity leave, and then I was offered a permanent position after that. But at the same time, I was offered a job in Guinness in Dublin, which was more hours. And at that stage, technology was coming around a little bit. It's not as good as it is now, but my vision would have been better than it is now. And I just found that once, no more than anywhere, where I would just explain, what my requirements are, that they're generally tried to be met by, employers, and if I'm on a training course, by the facilitator of the course. They'll always work with me as much as the resources will allow.
Would you have issues when it comes to public transport, for instance, like trying to get on the bus or train, or that the information may not be there, that it's not on a speaker for you?
I suppose when you get to my age as well, that you learn to speak up a lot more and just ask more and more questions, and I don't shy away from asking for help when I require it and when I feel that I need it, or if I'm in a position where I can't see anything. I have travelled the world on my own to different places, but we have special assistants in Dublin Airport. It's all about forward planning. And fortunately, I'm that type of person who will just sit down and do the research prior to anything. It can be a little bit annoying at times when you have to constantly, and you can't be as flexible as other people, that everything has to be planned in advance. But if you ask, the assistance is there, but it has to be done in advance. So forward planning, as I said, and working out when you want to do something, when you want to travel, things have to be booked in advance, no matter where you're travelling to, whether it be on public transport or, on even private transport, trying to get a cab anywhere. You're there waiting for the cab, and the cab is looking at you and you can't see the cab, and things like that. So there are barriers all the time and challenges.
So is there any advice that you would have, or anything that you would kind of say to people to kind of be more aware of?
I think it's all down to education and awareness for people. I think that, the more there are people who highlight these challenges that we have and are more open about our limitations, and that we discuss with them and just advise them. I think people, they're almost embarrassed to ask you, do you need help? So as I said, I'm not shy in saying, excuse me, would you mind reading that for me? Or I have an eye condition, I have limited vision, can you assist? And I think that helps. And I think, if you're confident in yourself, that it starts with your own mindset, that you're not a burden to somebody, that I'm the same as everybody else, I just don't have 20/20 vision.
Kevin Kelly, Head of Policy with Vision Ireland, says the number of people experiencing sight loss is growing.
I'm blind myself and have been for 20 plus years. And if any of your listeners who are listening to the programme, if you see somebody who's blind and vision impaired, you should, approach them, introduce yourself, say, hi, I'm Kevin, would you like some assistance? If the person who's blind or vision impaired would like assistance, they will say, yes, I would. You ask them, what they would like assistance with. And if it's guiding, for example, they'll show you how they prefer to be guided. Sometimes simply people will just want, a direction. I'm looking for the local shop. Am I close to it? And you'll say, yeah, it's a couple of doors up. Would you like me to direct? The thing that people shouldn't do, and does happen more often than you think. Sometimes, people who are blind or vision impaired are waiting at traffic lights. People see the long cane and they'll just come up and grab them and, drag them across the street. That's very, frightening when that does happen, because obviously if you're blind, you can't see that this person's, helping you. You probably automatically, instinctively think that this person is, attacking me, they're trying to mug me. So it's always very important to verbally introduce yourself and to offer assistance that way.
What common misconceptions do people have about blindness or sight loss?
Sight loss is a spectrum. So I mentioned earlier that there are 296,000 people who are living with significant sight loss. Less than 5% of that are totally blind. That means, you can't see anything at all. The vast majority of people who are living with sight loss are vision impaired. That means that they have a level of residual sight. So there are certain tasks that someone who's vision impaired can complete themselves with a little bit of support and direction. a lot of people believe that, people who are blind and vision impaired, how, like, simple things like, how do you dress yourself? How do you know what clothes you're wearing? How do you cook? All of these things. There are people out there, I've had these conversations over the years. They happen more often than you think. I had a conversation with a taxi driver, and I'll always remember it for as long as I live, where he was asking me where did I go to get shaved, and I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh well, there's no, like, you have no facial hair even up under your nose. And I was like, oh, I shaved myself this morning before I left the house, and this blew his mind. So there is conceptions, and that comes from the fact that people, unless you have someone with a disability, someone who is blind or vision impaired, you just simply don't know. So it's important that people stop, think, ask questions, and most people who are blind and vision impaired are happy to educate and to create greater awareness.
Thanks to Sharon Tracy from Tullamore and Kevin Kelly from Vision Ireland for speaking about their experience of living in a world they can't see. And for more information on this series, visit midlands103.com. On the next episode of Beyond Barriers, you'll hear how sport is breaking down barriers, changing perceptions and making a real difference in the lives of people with disabilities.
Beyond Barriers is funded by Commission Limon with the television licence fee.
And if you wish to hear any of the Beyond Barriers episodes, and indeed the Midlands Today show, you can go to midlands103.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So when you've got an 11-year-old boy in the car with you and you're going on a road trip and he's all about his music and you're thinking, you don't know what music is. Well, what are the essential songs for the musical education of an 11-year-old boy who's living here in the Midlands? That's quite a list you could come up with. So 083 30 10 103, text and WhatsApp. Because I definitely feel, rightly or wrongly, and feel free to disagree, this one has to be on that list. Bittersweet Symphony, proving that you can have an existential crisis and still make it sound magnificent. Richard Ashcroft brooding for 4.5 minutes. Strings soaring, and a song that makes you feel like walking into the photocopier could be the final scene of a movie. Now, when you call 0818 300 103 is my number. You can text or WhatsApp 083 30 10 103, powered by Lamb Brothers Toyota in Tullamore. There are some rugby teams you could listen to all night, even if they were just arguing over who gets the bill. But tomorrow in Tullamore, Jack Conan, Robbie Henshaw, James Lowe, Gary Ringrose and James Ryan are all on the same stage, and Bernard Jackman has the potentially hazardous job of trying to control all of them. But behind the rugby stories and the dressing room slagging, there's a much more serious reason for the night. Nigel Reams of Lumcloon Energy has himself set a target of raising €50,000 for Cancer Fund for Children as part of Rory Best's extraordinary challenge of walking 9 marathons in 9 days. And the money ultimately helps families dealing with something that none of us would ever want to contemplate: a child with cancer. Mairead Geehan is with Cancer Fund for Children. Jack Reams is one of the organisers at Lumcloon Energy. And the main man holding the microphone tomorrow night is former Ireland and Leinster hooker Bernard Jackman. Guys, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Jack, let's start with you. So how does an energy company in Offaly end up trying to get 5 Irish rugby internationals into a hotel in Tullamore?
Yeah, so Lumcloon loves to give back to the community. And I would actually like to start off by saying thank you very much to all the people that donated and are supporting us tomorrow evening in the Court Hotel. It's just unbelievable the support that we have received. Lumcloon loves supporting charities and organisations like Cancer Fund for Children around Ireland. For the last number of years, Lumcloon would have sponsored the Bog Run, which was down in Lochborough, and that was a very, very successful event. There was a lot of money raised, which was really, really helpful for the current building, which is a respite centre down in Con, County Mayo, that's going to be built for the children and families affected by cancer. So as a result, Nigel was asked by the Cancer Fund for Charity to look at a different fundraising opportunity. So he decided to take on the Rory's Miles to Mayo Challenge, which he'll be doing in September. And as we have to raise €50,000 as a result. So we have 5 rugby players coming down tomorrow evening, and they're going to talk about their lives, their rugby experiences and things like that. And that's going to be hosted by Brian Jackman, who we are so grateful for taking this time to come down.
Yeah, it should be join us. A very entertaining night. We'll hear more from Bernard in a moment, but let's establish where exactly the money is going. So, Mairead, when people hear Cancer Fund for Children, they may assume it's cancer treatment or medical research, but that's not actually what you do, is it?
We work with families who are trying to navigate childhood cancer. So every week across the island of Ireland, 10 children up until the age of 24 get diagnosed with cancer in Ireland, which is just, phenomenal. And we're here to help them along that journey. We offer informal therapeutic support in 3 ways. We have cancer support specialists who work in the home. We have 2 cancer support specialists working up on St. John's Ward in Crumlin. And we have an existing Daisy Lodge in Newcastle in County Down. And because there's such a huge demand for our services, we're opening up a second therapeutic centre called Daisy Lodge in Cong in County Mayo. So the funds that Nigel and Lumcloon Energy are raising will go towards supporting those services here in Ireland. It'll go directly to families who are trying to navigate childhood cancer.
I'm glad you mentioned families, because obviously our thoughts are very much with the person who receives the diagnosis, in this case the child, but it really is a journey for parents, siblings, all concerned.
Exactly. It affects the entire family, siblings, parents, grannies, granddads, the communities that they're living in. So I'll give you an example. Daisy Lodge Cong and Daisy Lodge Newcastle is a place of connection. It's a time for families to, get away from the hospitals, get away from treatments and just reconnect and spend time together as a family. Also, siblings get to meet other siblings going through the same journey. Parents meet other parents, and the child himself that's going through cancer also gets to meet other children. So it's very much a place of connection.
Bernard, 5 internationals, live microphones. Who are you most worried about?
I'm worried about them all, to be honest. I remember when I was playing one of my first games for Ireland under Eddie O'Sullivan, and I asked him, any words of advice or anything I should try and do, and he just said, "Don't F it up." So I feel in the same situation. They've got a great crowd coming. They've got great entertainment. It's for an amazing cause. They've got five of the world's best players. So yeah, the pressure's on me not to make a mess of it. But I can't believe that they've got 5 players of that quality together on a night. I mean, I'm lucky enough that I get to host corporate lunches or charity events, and usually you're talking to 1-star player. So to have 5 of the best. James Lowe, obviously leaving Irish rugby to go to Japan. His story becoming to Ireland and becoming a fan favourite here, and now obviously going off to try a new experience, and how it all unfolded will be really interesting. And then obviously Jemison Gibson Park, Robbie Henshaw, Gary Ringrose, James Ryan, all British and Irish lines. It's just going to be a phenomenal night, and we're getting them at the right time. Sometimes in season, they have the focus, the blinkers on. But I found the nights like this, when you get them up on stage together, they really open up, and you get a real insight into their personalities and characters. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it.
In your experience, which gives you better stories, playing or coaching?
I'm playing for sure. I think coaching, you have to be a little bit more serious, but it's the characters that they've played with, the coaches they've played under, some of the tours they've been on. They make memories for life, and they're brilliant. They want to share those with an audience. So I think we'll have a really, really good night tomorrow night. And if anyone hasn't got tickets, I think there's already a huge crowd coming, but I think there's still some tickets left. It'd be great to smash that 50,000 target.
Jack, give us some details then. The wheres, the whens, how to get tickets.
Yes, so doors open tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. in the Court Hotel. Tickets are still available until around 8 p.m. tomorrow evening for any latecomers. We also have a raffle, so you can look at a raffle online on iDonate, and it would be really, really greatly appreciated. It's 3 tickets for €5 and 10 tickets for 10, I think. Yeah, it is, yeah.
Suffice to say, there's an incentive to buy more anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
And if you can't attend, but you want to support Nigel's €50,000 target, can you donate separately?
Yes, there is a Just Giving page. You can find it online if you search Rory's Miles to Mayo. And you can donate as much as you want on that. That would be also very greatly appreciated. And it would be really, really helpful for the charity as they move forward.
Jack Reams of Lumcloon Energy, Mairead Geehan from Cancer Fund for Children, and Bernard Jackman. Thank you all very much for joining us. Hope it's a huge success.
Thank you.
And that is where we leave it for today. Sinead Hubble put it all together and is already working on Friday's programme, where we'll be live from Portlaoise celebrating the Leaving Cert. Hey! With thanks to People First Credit Union. I'll chat to you then. Take care. Bye-bye.